Hey, what's up everybody? 3D Theory here. Today is October 8th, 2024, and it is 9:23 a.m. This is vlog 59. All right guys, so we got some fun stuff planned for today. We're gonna do two things. One is I gotta get that stealth TV tray printed out for my family member in that gray PETG that looks like that. And second, we're gonna start designing the Lazy Day tray over here. So this was kind of our first rough prototype. This was 3D printed on the Creality CR6 Max in PLA, and our goal now, as you've seen in yesterday's video, is to design this so it can house these collapsible silicone food storage containers and allow you to sit in bed with your loved one on your rest day, which I also call a lazy day. And those lazy days usually consist of watching a whole bunch of movies, curtains closed, in a dark room like a movie theater, and eating a bunch of snacks and just laying about. And we don't want to have the remotes or your cell phones far away, so we got places for those. Or let's say you want to watch it on your iPad or tablet or what have you. You could put that there, your phone's here, so on and so forth. But I do feel like we're probably going to veer away from this design in the sketching out process here that we're going to do today, which is what you see over here, this white paper. I did consider getting this ready for injection molding. However, that's too expensive for what we're going for right now. And we have 5 perfectly good Bambu Lab A1 3D printers that we can utilize to create something like this and use mixed media, such as those silicone collapsible food storage containers, to build this thing out and actually be able to have a functional piece. I did mention in yesterday's video about vacuum forming, and shout out to Will the Maker. He mentioned thermoforming, which I believe is an umbrella term that vacuum forming would fall under. And he gave some great tips on if we were to do thermoforming. You got to be careful about the deep draws, such as these here, as it's pushing a flat piece of plastic down to create these cavities. It's also stretching it while also making it weaker. And we did cover yesterday that we would have a little bit more rounded corners to kind of match the design aesthetic of this, which he also mentioned. And another tip that he mentioned was having draft angles. So instead of having something come straight down, it would come at an angle instead, and that would help with the thermoforming process. Those are all really great tips. So I just want to thank Will the Maker for all that great info. By the way, it is 73.8 degrees Fahrenheit in the 3D printer room with a 51% humidity level. And I'm just going to cover this quickly. We have a bunch of 3D printed stuff available for free on my Maker World, and this is all the stuff that you can download and print and have fun. These are thrones for your phone, and they're Star Wars themed. We got green from Rainbow Friends, the Lightyear laser blade, which is a little bit more of a complex project. One of my favorite tools I have on there is this thickness test, where you get kind of these cards at various thicknesses to be able to reference as you're modeling, so you know how thick to make something or how thin to make something. We also have this stealth French side table. It's a little small, but you can put your phone on there or a cup of coffee or anything really. It could be placed next to your couch or in the bathroom or wherever you'd like. But nonetheless, all this stuff are available on my Maker World for free to download, print, and have fun. By the way, this stealth TV tray is also available on my Maker World to download, print, and have fun. For those of you who are new to the channel, this is my tiny 3D print farm of 5 Bambu Lab A1 3D printers. One of them has an AMS Light Combo that I printed a top mount for. And what I usually print out in here, as you can see in some of my older vlogs, are latches printed out in gray PETG, which look really great. Because of these printers, and I think because of the filament as well, produce a really good quality finish. But we do latches, that's the left latch, right latch, left plate, which houses those latches, and man oh man, do they look clean. Moving on to the right plate as well, and these are done for a larger product that doesn't have any other 3D printed parts. And I don't really get into the details about larger product due to business obligations, because the rest of the part isn't 3D printed, and this channel focuses mainly on 3D printing. And production is on pause right now because we have about 300 units that we're assembling, and they take quite a bit of time to assemble. We're about halfway through, and we still got a bit of a ways to go. And after that, we're looking to get more orders. But then, when these spools are nearly empty, and they can't print out a full plate or a full latch, I put them on the AMS Light Combo so that it starts the print with one near empty spool, and once that finishes, it automatically switches to the next near empty spool and finishes the print. That's what we've got down there. By the way, if you guys are interested in the PETG that I use, and if you like the quality of what you see, I have my 3D Theory PETG available in black and gray on my Etsy shop, linked in the description below. And for the first 45 people that get 3D Theory PETG, will also get a 3D Theory 3D printed keychain in PETG as well. That looks like this. If you're interested, the link is in the description below. Nothing like a nice fresh cup of coffee. All right, guys, since these are ready to go, I'm just going to go ahead and print this out. So we have the left tabletop, which is going to be 11 hours and 41 minutes. And we also have the right tabletop over here, which is going to be 11 hours and 9 minutes. And this has the slot for the drawer. Print that out. And luckily for us, I have 2 drawers that are already printed out, so I don't need to print those out. One of them has those spots before I dried the filament with the iBoss Polyphemus, and the other one dried out with the filament dryer from iBoss, and it looks great. I'll probably be using this one. All right, guys, so we're here at the drawing table. We got everything printing out for the Stealth TV tray, so I think we are ready to get some sketching done. And again, we're going to be working on the Lazy Day tray, and it's always nice to know when you are working on something. So today is the 24th, October 8th, and since I am right-handed, I'm going to actually switch the camera this way. All right, guys, hopefully that's a good camera angle for you. And so, as mentioned before, this is my 2H mechanical pencil over here, my drafting pencil. And I also have a 4B mechanical pencil over here, a drafting pencil, and I like to just start out with the 2H because it gives me a nice light line. So we're just going to get started here. I know that I was intending on having it horizontally like this, and we had the cup holders here with the big bowl over here, 2 compartments, and that extra phone holder. However, I thought to myself, if a couple is laying in bed, and this is the top of the bed where a couple of people are lying down, and have that Lazy Day tray there, it may be that the width of this might be pushing these 2 people close to the edge of the bed, and that's not something I want to happen. So I'm considering actually designing it kind of vertically like this, or the best way I can describe it, long ways, not horizontally like that, so that it can be like this, and people can be closer to the Lazy Day tray and also have enough space on their bed. And let's say this is a king size bed, but what about a queen size bed? If this is kind of horizontal, it might be too large for the bed and the 2 people there. So that's why I think designing it kind of vertically like this would be better. And obviously, we're working with the dimensions of the Stealth TV tray, which is currently at about 500 millimeters by 250 millimeters. And we're looking at a 22 millimeter thickness of the table itself. And our silicone collapsible trays here should all be about the same thickness. And just to double check over here, I'm gonna grab my calipers and try that out, make sure I'm accurate there. That's about 22.5. How interesting. That is like perfect. This is actually thinner. It's 20.7 millimeters, and this is 20.4 millimeters. So the largest one's actually 2 millimeters larger. We have something at about, I'm just gonna call it 23 millimeters, but again, it doesn't really matter because there's going to be holes to accommodate this. So the collapsible tray, let's say, are approximately 23 millimeters thick. And as we see over here, we're going to be having it going long ways like this. And I'm going to grab the largest one and put it like that there and kind of go up from there. I do want to leave the center line alone, but what feels more natural, having the larger one here and then smaller ones up top, or vice versa? Let's take a look. I feel like if we're going to be sharing, I feel like the largest one should be closer to the middle. And why I'm leaving this area open is because this is where the cup holders are going to be. Now, does it feel more natural to pick up a cup here and drink it, and likewise for the person sitting there? I think maybe the cup holder would feel more natural sitting up top, or to counterbalance this product, I may do one here and one there if it allows me, if there's enough space. And it's going to be kind of hard to gauge that without kind of visualizing it here, because I know that this is going to be roughly the size of the Stealth TV tray. So if I have a cup holder here and the other person has it here, it might feel weird design-wise. So I'm just going to grab my 3D Theory coaster and put this there. There's going to just be a whole area here that's not really used up for anything. And let me grab a second one, and let's put that like that. Now here's the issue that I'm kind of seeing here. We don't have any space for the tablet or the phone now, because I'm imagining this is closed up, so that doesn't quite make much sense to me. What about if I make this like that and bring this over to the edge? And what if I bring this over like that and bring that over like that? I think I like the look of this, but once again, we're kind of losing the spot for the phone, as well as for, let's say you want to watch a tablet. Now I'm going to bring this back to this orientation, and then I'll bring this over here. So we have the two main snacks over here, and then we can bring this smaller one there. And I think having it go from largest to small is the right way to go. And likewise, we can just put our cups like that. And I think that should work, because if we have some stuff here, essentially it'll balance itself out. And if we want to have, let's say, the TV remotes and our phones kind of having two slots, so we can keep this slot there, have another slot there if it allows for it. And I do want to have enough space in between for rims to be able to hold these up, so kind of like that. And as a matter of fact, for, let's say, a slot for a tablet, we can have a slot here and not have it close off here in this section. We can just let it kind of go off to the edge, because then you can put a really large tablet there or a small one and it'll still work. So we got three main compartments, two cup holders, a slot for phones or remote controls. I could put another slot there, and then an opening slot there for larger devices that you might want to be viewing. So I think we have kind of our design over here. And if you look at our original design down here, we have a main bowl, two other snack compartments, our cup holders, and two slots. And with this idea, I think we're getting there. We have a main compartment, two other snack areas, two cup holders, a slot one, a slot two, and we're actually adding a third slot. The main difference here now is that we need to account for the height, because we have a collapsible bowl that can just open up like this, and I kind of want to see if they're all the same height. And as you can tell, they are certainly not all the same height. It looks like maybe these two are the same height, but this one is definitely taller, so we're going to be essentially designing for the height of this one. So I can put these back over here. All right, and now that I know it's going to be about this high up, let me see what that number actually is. So we got about 61.9, which I'm going to round up to 62 millimeters. We got 62 millimeter high collapsible tray. And obviously these vary in sizes. And what I'm going to do personally is I'm going to actually go ahead and model these out when the time comes. And I'm just going to take the measurements as I model. And as mentioned before, I do want to have a lid that covers this that's flat, because once these are, let's say, not in use, you can actually just have a flat table surface that'll probably look like this, because there's a little cover here to be able to put stuff, let's say a large plate of food or whatever, and kind of just use it as a table surface on your bed. And you still have your cup holders and slots. And I think that would be a great idea. All right, guys, so now that we know what we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and start designing the look of it here. I'm going to go ahead and use this as the starting design language to inform how I design the rest of the Lazy Day tray. And I like these rounded corners here that this gives us. So I'm going to start out with rounded corners. I'm just going to do a top view here and bring that around. Likewise over here, bring that around. So that's going to be our tabletop surface. And as mentioned, we're going to have a slot that goes across this way for a large tablet or an iPad. And this is going to be open. There's not going to be kind of a stopping wall here. And then over here, we're gonna have cup holder, let me find the center line, cup holder number 1 that goes off to the edge, because I do want to have a spot for, let's say, a handle for a mug. So there is gonna be an opening right there. Want to make a visual indicator like that, just for my own personal notes so I remember. And likewise, there's going to be a little opening there for that one. And right now I'm just focusing on getting the visual of it all, and then later we can go in and get all the measurements. And as mentioned before, I like this kind of rounded edge as my design language. So I'm going to do the same for when I make the slots over here for the phone, and I'm going to round them out just like that. Slot over here. All right, and I know that over here we're going to have a center line because obviously we're going to print this in 2 pieces. And so with our center line being there, we're going to have our collapsible silicone bowls in here like that. We're going to have another one pretty tightly next to the larger one, because I can kind of visualize it with the Stealth TV tray here next to me, right? And then we're going to have the small one right over here. And like I said, I know this is going to be 250 millimeters, while over here is going to be 500 millimeters. And we're going to need it to be a little bit greater than 62 millimeters high. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a profile here of this. And so I'm just going to want it to go straight up. And I'm going to have a really tight chamfer over here. I'm not going to make it a straight 90-degree angle, but I will have a tight chamfer, and it's not going to be rounded like you see here. I want to have as big of a footprint as I possibly can. And let's say this is 70 millimeters thick. And here's where our slot opening would be for the big iPads or what have you. And then we're going to have our cup holders here. And I want to draw it with a dashed line to indicate that there's a wall there, except for where the handle will be. The handle will be leaving an opening here on both sides. Then we have another slot here, as well as the other side. And then behind that is where we have this collapsible silicone bowl holes and openings. And I do want to make mention here that for all 3 of the openings, I do want to have some sort of a lid. And the kind of lid that I was imagining would be like to a battery case. So when you open up a battery case, let's say it's a little electronic device here, and usually you'll see like a battery case like this in the back. And if you take out that lid, let's imagine we take out this lid here, it would look like that with a little, let's say like a V-shaped notch that you would press in to be able to lift up and off, and then there would be kind of 2 little teeth that kind of slide into here where there's 2 holes, so you'd slide that in and clip it into place. And that's the kind of lid that I would like to create here. And we can do it long ways. We can do it horizontally like this. This will be where that little clip is, and you can just lift it up, open it, likewise lift that up, open it, likewise lift that up and open it. And now that I'm thinking about it, let me see here. It's 115 millimeters. So if we're planning on making this 70 millimeters, that idea won't work out. I was imagining when we take the lid off, I can just put it on the side here so that we don't have to worry about lids being everywhere. And you know, that is still something we might be able to do. So I'm gonna just make note of this here like that and have the teeth there. And what I was thinking was we can kind of print an extra piece that would go onto the front over here, and it would just be like a little area where it's kind of like a basket, and it has dowel-like features that connect to the front there, where we can just put all 3 lids, 1, 2, and 3, and have it housed right there. So it's all just, you know, self-contained. When attached, it would look something like this. And I was thinking kind of a pass-through, see-through basket that's kind of has like a, not a weave, but something like it, and kind of a rough idea. But then you'll be able to put your lids in there, and it'll be, you know, all in one place. You don't have to worry about it. Basket for lids. Okay, so I think we got most of the idea sorted out. This will be the basket opening like that. Okay, we have the lid, 3 lids rather. This opening slot for the iPad or tablet. Then we got the cup holders, comes around this way. Then we have these slots for your phone or let's say TV remote. And then we have the openings for the collapsible silicone trays. There you have it there. And we're just going to go ahead and do this profile as well. And that's how the profile is going to look. Now we know 3D printing and supports and all that. So I do want to make mention that if I were to print this out, let's say if it was like thermoformed, where it was one sheet of plastic that was pressed into this molded shape, let's say I'm going for that sort of look. So it's not filled in and uses a bunch of filament like this is. Let's say I want this to be empty and kind of like the shell of this. I'm going to want to, by the way, I should probably make note that this is where the center line for this one is. So because I know that there's going to be a lot of supports for something like this, I want to break this down. Where I see a lot of supports happening is in this area and in this area and potentially in this area. So let's say I want to break this down into pieces, which I don't want to do. I'm just going to explore the idea really quick to see if it's even a good idea or not, which I can kind of tell right now that it's probably not a good idea. All right, so that's kind of our profile simplified here. I'm not going to include the basket. And when I start 3D printing on the 3D printer bed, let's say here's the nozzle, it's going to be printing sideways like this. This is our X and our Y, and then we have our Z going up and down. So it's going to be printing up like this. And because this is going to be a shell, there's going to be a bunch of tree supports, or regular supports rather, all along here like this. That's going to use a lot of filament that really we don't need it to be using that much. So either I can cut this up into pieces, which is the idea that I thought wouldn't be a good idea because there's going to be a lot of post work being done and we want to minimize that as much as possible. So what's another way that I can do this? Can I design this in such a way where it's not kind of like a shell like this? Can I perhaps just have kind of like one thick plate up top here and maybe create separate legs that I attach post, which would be very simple. Just put it in and it's good to go. Or maybe even have a screw that we can screw it in. Now, this leg option is possible, but let's explore it a little further. So we have a table like this, right? And we have a leg here, a leg here, a leg there, right? And this is all fine and dandy, but we have to take into account that when someone lays down, by the way, this is not an accurate depiction of the size of the bed, but if someone lays down, and even the table, but if someone lays down over here, right, and they're just lounging, watching some TV, this bed's gonna crease in and it's gonna cause the table to tilt either which way, especially if one party is heavier than the other. Maybe the table will tilt one way more so than the other, so you're gonna have a table that kind of is slanted like this. And to give it the best chance of being level, I kind of want to have a very strong base that goes all around as opposed to just a leg on each corner. But then again, there can be a lot of filament being used for this, and still we have the issue of how are we going to print this so that it doesn't use a lot of supports. Let's say we do stand it up and print it this way, right? Here's that front slot, here's the cup holder. All this is a shell. So all this is empty space. So then the supports are going to print down this way. And that's also not going to work. We can extend the footprint diagonally, and maybe that'll help without printing with supports, but we're already limited in our space on the 3D print bed. So we can't really go with that idea. And if I print it down, but then we're going to have support material in the cup holders, which is okay, and support material in these slots, which is also okay. The only problem there is that we won't be having a smooth surface, but rather we'll have the textured surface of the PEI sheet. And if we do want to have a smooth surface, I can just use my smooth PEI sheet that I got and print it on that, which again, can work. But without a doubt, we're going to have supports in here, 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 and here. And perhaps, depending on how these inner slots are going to work, which, as you can see here, we're going to need to have a lip that kind of sits in there. And that lip is also going to have support all along the borders here. And that's a lot of cleanup, a lot of excess filament that we don't want to waste. But we need to find a way to make it work. I think so far the best option for us is to print face down, but again, we have that support issue where we'll be needing to print out a bunch of supports. Or perhaps we can go ahead with this 4-leg design and maybe we can add another piece that connects these two. And again, we'd have to print them in half. So essentially we'd have an entire footprint and this part is hollowed out. And we can easily just grab these cylinders and rotate them into place, or, you know, kind of have a clip or somehow wedge them in where they get stuck in there pretty good. And then the same thing for this. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces here that we can put in this leg, and it can be this extra support base, and all this would just be open. And obviously there's going to be cups here, so this would go down like that, and the slots as well. The thickest part would probably be the cups. And still, if we don't like that idea, we can explore everything being modular. So what do I mean by that? I mean, instead of having built-in slots, I can have pieces that can be put in later so as to avoid having a lot of tree supports. And what do I mean by that? Let's go ahead and take this as an example. So we have our slot here, and please excuse kind of the loose drawing here, but essentially this would just be a flat piece like that. And it would just have cutouts, except for this part. This part, I think we would need it to just be an actual slot. And so we can print it like this, and there will be no need for supports. And we would print this cup holder separately. It would just have kind of like a lip like this. And we would print 2 of those, and we would have some supports on the side here, but it might be significantly less. We would also print slots. As a matter of fact, we wouldn't even need this because we can just do the same thing we did with this here. It'd just be kind of sunken in, and like that. It'll be less than the thickness of the tabletop. These slots would work out just fine. It's only the cup holders that are causing an issue. Now we could print those out separately and have 4 legs that print out separately, as well as 6 bases. But now we're getting into a territory where there's all this post work we need to do, meaning once the prints are done, we're going to have to go in and start assembling. And that's not great for scalability. So I don't want to go with this modular putting it together part. Rather, I would like to go with the face down option. I'm going to go ahead and print this face down. So we'll print face down, and where we'll see some support material would be here, 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 and these 2 slots, as well as these corners here potentially. But other than that, I think that should be pretty easy to clean up, especially if we're using really light support material. And hey, even if we use PLA supports and print with PETG. This right here is our final design for the Lazy Day tray. We went through the exercises of trying to make something that has as little supports as possible and try to make it so that it's easily scalable. And I'm gonna see how easily we can manufacture this with FDM additive manufacturing here. But that about wraps it up for today's video. We got our sketch ready to go. We're going to jump into Maya, the 3D modeling software that I like to model in for the next vlog, and we're going to get this printed out and ready to go after that. All right guys, thank you so much for joining me on today's vlog. Until next time, peace, love, and joy.